let's talk about a couple of guys that you really like. And there's one particularly that I want to give you the floor on, because I feel like on this show, Matt Penny and I have been a bit lower on Jaden Hardy than the general consensus has been throughout the process. Although the consensus seems to have come to where we are on it, where we have him as a later first round pick. You've kind of actually swayed me a little bit to where I think I might end up with him like around the 20 mark at the end of the day. I would love to hear your pitch on Jaden Hardy, because I know that you have him even way higher than like top 20 guy. So I give you the floor, Adam Spinella.
Yeah, so I have Jaden Hardy right now as a top 6 prospect. I have a number 6 on the board, which is incredibly, incredibly rich for a lot of people out there. And I totally understand why. But there are 2 things that really stand out for me. One is draft philosophy, and the other is how good you have to be to earn certain opportunities. The draft philosophy that I tend to have in the top 10 is that you're looking for guys that are going to at some point be, flagship carriers for your franchise. And typically those are guys who can go out there and just score in a playoff series, create their own, be really, really good on ball and off ball scorers. I think Hardy has a lot of evidence that he can be both of those things. He's not polished enough in those areas right now, but he's shown a lot of evidence that he's confident. He's got some 3-level potential and has a really tight ball handle, the wiggle, the ability to create separation for his own shot. We can go back and forth about the frustrations about relying on those step backs as opposed to trying to get to the rim. But I'm a huge believer that that's kind of what you draft for. And in my opinion, outside of the top 5 guys in this draft, the Chets, the Jabaris, Paolos, Jaden Ivies, Shaden Sharps, Hardy is the right type of upside swing to take for any franchise that just says, hey, I believe he's going to score 20 a game. That's more valuable than the risk reward anywhere else. The other part of the equation is how good you have to be to earn the opportunity that Jaden Hardy just got, right? Like, we talk a lot about the top 60 of these guys that were going to the NBA draft combine, and some of them might not have showed well, but how amazing of an accomplishment is it for them to be considered one of the 60 best in the world at something? Jaden Hardy was given the reins on a professional basketball team to be their lead offensive creator at 18 years old. I don't think that happens to guys who are not lottery talents. And again, there's enough athletically and defensively that he has to be able to come around on. But the offensive talent is incredibly clear. And I don't want to punish an 18-year-old in a professional league for not being incredibly efficient, when really what we should impress by is the fact that he's deserving of that volume. And, I keep going back and forth on how much the numbers really matter for a guy like Hardy, but it's the progression throughout the season and how much better he was in that final month of the year from the first part of the year. And that's not just numbers wise. It's the playmaking reads that he made out of the pick and roll, the comfort in keeping his dribble alive, the snaking and getting to the basket and finishing around big men a little bit more. Like, you could see him figuring it out. And I'm just a believer that, guys who aren't great defenders at the college level, the concerns over that are typically overblown come draft time. I mean, I remember 2 years ago hearing Anthony Edwards is, not being the greatest defender. His athletic tools were way different than Hardy's. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like, guys, when the stakes are high, tend to figure it out a little bit and get the best out of themselves that they can. I think Hardy will not be as big of a negative on the defensive end that would prevent me from wanting to draft him. So again, a long-winded answer of saying really believe in his overall potential and think that he's the type of swing that you look for when you're trying to say, what does any franchise need? What is the right thing to win games in the postseason? It's guys who can go out there and create their own shot consistently at a really high level.
Yeah, that's a really good pitch. And it's something that when I went back and did the draft guide profile on Jaden Hardy, the thing that stood out to me most was the ball handling. Like, I actually think he has the best functional handle in this draft class, is kind of where I'm at on this. Jaden Hardy probably, okay, let me rephrase. I think that Jaden Hardy probably is the best technical handle in this draft class. Jaden Ivey literally just being able to run around someone and like run past someone is probably a bit more functional than what Jaden Hardy can do. And at the end of the day, I kind of just buy that Jaden Ivey is going to make that work at the NBA level. But once you get past Jaden Ivey, I think in terms of just technical ability off the ball, the way that he strings together change of pace and change of direction moves, the way that he can string together like a hesitation, he'll do like a hang dribble into a crossover, into a between the legs, into another between the legs, into a step back. And you're just like, oh, that's like a professional move. That's not an 18-year-old like kind of playing around here. That's a like NBA caliber move that he's able to get separation on. The two things that worry me a little bit on Jaden Hardy are that I don't think he's as good of a shooter as someone like, say, Cam Thomas was last year in terms of his touch. Like Cam Thomas has always been like hovering around that like 90% mark from the foul line. And I think that Jaden Hardy has as well. But you kind of just watch the way the ball comes out of his hand. It feels a lot cleaner with Cam Thomas than it does with Jaden Hardy. And I'm a little bit worried about Jaden Hardy being a high enough level shooter right now to take advantage of his ability to separate, which I actually really buy at the NBA level. The second is the defense. Like you are a little bit higher on the defense. The guys that tend to exceed effort level questions on defense are the tools guys, the guys that just like once the game gets tough and like once the game starts to matter, they play their tools up, right?
Yeah.
Jaden Hardy doesn't have those tools to rely on. Like the reason he's so successful as a ball handler is more that he can string together change of pace and change of direction at once, can play at his own pace and can rock the defender to sleep more through just hesitation and everything. It's not like nuclear athleticism.
No.
It's on defense, I worry about he has no real ability to recover at the end of the day. There's no margin for error is the word I'm looking for.
Sure.
With him defensively, to where like you look at someone like Jordan Poole, like I don't think Jordan Poole's not trying defensively in the playoffs right now, but he's still getting toasted every time that someone like really attacks him, right? So I worry that Jaden Hardy could end up getting kind of just toasted at the end of the day defensively in a way that where if the shooting also is more in the 36% range, that's a tough combination and that's probably not worth a first round pick. But if it's so scalable based on the shooting, like if he is a 38% 3-point shooter at high volume, and hitting 3 threes a game on 8 3-point attempts per game, that's probably worth a very high like lottery pick. That's probably not worth a high lottery pick maybe, but worth like a mid-tier lottery pick. You throw in the one thing that like we haven't really talked about is his passing ability. I actually really like his passing ability.
I love
quite
it.
a bit.
Yeah.
Like some of the live dribble reads he made in flashes, not in consistent moments over the course of his year, especially later in the year with the Ignite, I thought was very, very impressive. The problem is that his mindset is so geared toward scoring that he doesn't always take advantage of the just natural tools he has as a playmaker. If he can find a way to like kind of mix and match those two skills a little bit better and actually play with vision, and instead of taking bad shots from the mid-range that are just fucking terrible like offense killers, I actually really kind of buy the skill level. Like when I went back, I was expecting almost to have Jaden Hardy as like a 27 to 35 range guy. When I went back, I was like, oh no, this is definitely a first round pick. This is like a probably top 20 guy for me. Mm-hmm. I can't quite get to where you are, but the tape was more impressive than what I thought.
Well, and context is important too, whether it's the shot selection or the playmaking and assist numbers. I think a lot of people look at low assist numbers and assume that there's not a lot of great
Yeah.
playmaking going on there. The context in the Ignite system is incredibly important because of who he was surrounded with. Like, this team was not expertly put together for a
Yeah.
lead guard to go and just score, because Dyson Daniels didn't shoot the ball well. Marjon Beauchamp didn't shoot the ball well. Scoot Henderson didn't shoot the ball well. Michael Foster
Right.
didn't shoot the ball well. Like, all of these guys that were supposed to be surrounding Jaden Hardy when he had the ball, just not a lot of 3-point threats. And the floor has shrunk. And because he's not a great athlete and relies on his skill, that's a lot harder to try to get through.
Yeah.
I think that his assist numbers probably take a little bit of an uptick. Maybe a few of those mid-range jumpers or step back threes disappear when he's surrounded by better shooters. And maybe the rim attempts and percentages go up a little bit as well. So I'm with you on the defensive stuff. Like, there's concerns, but I believe in his offensive package so much that I'd be willing to build a roster around, blanketing some of those concerns, and think that what he brings to the table offensively is valuable enough to do that.
Yeah, I think that's the slight difference between us. I wouldn't be willing to build a roster around it. I would be willing to bring him into my roster to see if he can just accentuate some of those passing abilities and excise some of the disaster shot selection. And then early on, build a second unit around him, maybe by year 2 or so, year 3, and see if that works, is kind of where I'm at on it. But yeah, I'm tentatively more in on Jaden Hardy than what I expected to be when we started this process. The other guy I wanted to talk to you about is